This from the General Secretary came as the union launched celebrations for its 70th anniversary at the NUPW's headquarters this morning.
General Secretary Dennis Clark says a strike on behalf of temporary workers is off the cards.
A temporary officer is a worker without any status who don't really and truly have a job. Are you going to take up people who don't have a job to put them out there demonstrating? What would they be demonstrating for?
Following a Founders Day service in the Horatio Cook Auditorium, Mr. Clark says the union is awaiting the names of the public sector workers to be sent home.
One has to understand that we will not have the full list as promised by hopefully Friday this week, because the list will comprise the names from statutory boards also. So and that process is much longer than the central services. So we are waiting.
He says they were selected based not only on their number of years in the service, but also on profession.
You can't expect somebody who is performing a critical role in the Queen Elizabeth Hospital lab and only has a year or 2 years service to go home, right? You see that person will get treated differently from a clerical officer with a year or 2 years service.
But the NUPW promises to remain faithful to any members that are laid off. President Walter Maloney says the union will formulate programs for displaced workers.
Whether it's in counseling, whether it's a job placement, whether it's getting people to understand their competencies and the direction should go in, whether it's in wealth management, whether it's how to go and get a loan to start a small business. These are areas that we will have to be involved in.
And it's also monitoring the membership levels throughout this current industrial climate.
If I go on the 1991 situation, we would have lost members, but at the same time we gained members, right? And I would expect that to happen because we're going to lose some of our membership, but then we have to put programs in place to, offset that loss. And we are doing that right now.
The NUPW has scheduled a series of lectures, luncheons, conferences and shows to mark its 70th anniversary. Lisa Broom, CBC News.
Another retirement from one of the island's top trade unions. This time, it's General Secretary of the NUPW, Dennis Clark, who is stepping down from that position at the end of October. Mr. Clark has been with the NUPW for the past 40 years, the last 5 of which he's spent as General Secretary. He replaced Joe Goddard, who took up a post as Barbados Ambassador to the United Nations. CBC News understands that Mr. Clark is clear in his mind that something extraordinary would have to occur for him to change his mind. His announcement follows that of General Secretary of the Barbados Workers Union, Sir Roy Trotman, who recently announced that he was stepping down from August this year. About 24 temporary instructors at the Samuel Jackman Prescott Polytechnic say they are anxiously awaiting their January salaries. This after they reportedly received letters this afternoon from Principal Hector Bell. Those letters informed them that the institution was awaiting approval for an extension of their letter of authority to pay them from the Personnel Administration Division. The letters of authority for the instructors expired on December 31st last year. And word is that they will be extended for a further 3 months until March 31st. The instructors say they have received correspondence dated January the 20th, 2014, informing them of the late payment of their salaries and that the monies are likely to be paid sometime between now and the end of March. When contacted, a top official of the SJPP told CBC the application for the extension of the letters of authority has been sent to government, as is normal practice. The official says when that approval is received, the instructors will be paid, noting that the payments are not made directly from the SJPP but through the Treasury. Attorney General Adriel Brathwaite says government is awaiting recommendations of a scientific study on the use of marijuana in Barbados before making a full policy determination on that issue. That study is being conducted by the Task Force on Crime Prevention. His comments follow queries from CBC after the U.S. state of Colorado legalized the use of marijuana for medicinal and recreational purposes. Mr. Brathwaite says he expects the recommendations should be in the hands of government later this year, following which a clear policy framework on the issue will be set out. Mr. Brathwaite has told CBC the task force will examine all issues relating to the use of marijuana. He says for some time now he's been very concerned about the use of the drug among young Barbadians and the large numbers who end up before the criminal courts charged with the use of illegal narcotics. He adds that a significant number of people who have committed burglaries admitted that they were either under the influence of marijuana or cocaine. The National Council on Substance Abuse is looking for a new manager. This after former manager Yolande Ford's 3-year contract with the council ended last week. Ms. Ford tells CBC News her parting with the NCSA was not bitter and says she is already pursuing professional interests related to her qualifications as a criminologist. She names the completion of the department's strategic plan and the development of Barbados' anti-drug plan among her major achievements.
That plan should be ready for delivery to the Attorney General of Barbados in a matter of weeks. At the time of the end of my contract, it was in its final stages of preparation. The anti-drug plan relates to all agencies and organizations within the drug control sector of Barbados, and it will basically outline to them what is expected of their particular department, agency or organization over the next 5 years.
Ms. Ford says another major achievement is the groundwork laid for the drug treatment court in Barbados. The pilot is expected to be launched in a few weeks and should be operational by the end of February.
The drug treatment court is going to be an effective mechanism for the management of drug-dependent criminal offenders. So it is a court, undoubtedly, so obviously I've had a very strong collaboration with members of the judiciary and the Chief Justice, of course, in the establishment of this court. So it is a court, but it essentially is a court that would provide for court-mandated and judicially supervised treatment for drug-addicted offenders.
Well, CBC News understands that Ms. Ford's deputy, Betty Hunt, is now the acting manager of the NCSA. Lawmen are continuing investigations into a shooting incident in St. John yesterday, which left 3 people injured. According to reports, the men were injured when shots were fired into a crowd during a dispute involving a group of men. The incident occurred near Small Town around 4 o'clock, near to Our Lady of the Rosary Roman Catholic Church. The injured, whose names have not been released as yet, all reside in that parish. The shootings occurred as scores of people had gathered in the area for the St. John Carnival. Police say one man received a gunshot injury to his upper body and was taken to hospital by ambulance in a serious condition. Another was shot in his left leg, and the third received a graze to his head. These 2 men were taken from the area by separate private vehicles. A Guyanese national arrested and charged at the airport for possession of 39 pounds of cannabis has been fined $150,000 after appearing in the Oistins Magistrates Court. 42-year-old Uche Omotosho Adamisa Blair of Buxton Village, East Coast, Demerara, Georgetown, pleaded guilty and was fined forthwith on the possession charge. If he fails to pay, he will spend 4 years for the offence. He received CRDs for the other charges of possession with intent to supply, trafficking and importation. Now, according to police public relations officer Inspector David Welch, Blair arrived by air from Guyana on Monday about 4:30 p.m. and was interviewed by drug squad personnel after clearing immigration. He was then referred to customs, where the illegal drug was discovered in 26 packages in his luggage. A local political analyst is querying opposition comments regarding recent actions involving former party leader Owen Arthur. Maureen Holder, CBC's resident political analyst, described Mr. Arthur as committed to the Barbados Labour Party. She believes it's unfair that some of his party colleagues have been treating him in such a manner. Ms. Holder described the action as uncalled for, suggestions that Mr. Arthur was nothing more to contribute to the party and should move on. She thinks a man of Mr. Arthur's caliber is an asset to any institution.
I don't think that Mr. Arthur has to depend on politics in Barbados to make a livelihood. Certainly he can go any part of the region and make a contribution, and certainly he still has a contribution to make to this country. And I think that people are misunderstanding and interpreting Mr. Arthur's comments to mean that he wants to retain the leadership of the country, or he wants to come back and take over or become Prime Minister. Mr. Arthur, in my view, has nothing to prove. He has been Prime Minister 3 times. He has nothing to lose or gain. He doesn't have to demonstrate or show anybody that he can be Prime Minister, because he's already done that. It's for others coming on now to prove that they can lead, and they can lead a country effectively.
Ms. Holder is of the view that Mr. Arthur is responsible for transforming the Barbados Labour Party.
Many persons forgot that when Mr. Arthur came on the scene, he was extremely charismatic. He won over some Democratic Labour Party supporters. The man had an image. He was a monolith. He went among the people. He appealed to the grassroots. He transformed the image. He rebranded the image of the Barbados Labour Party. He gave it a more mass-based popular support that they didn't have before. It was regarded as an elitist party, only supporting certain types of backgrounds, ethnic backgrounds, only supporting certain classes. But when Mr. Arthur emerged on the scene from a working class background, was able to use his charisma, was able to use his skill to rebrand the party, to win the populace over, to give them a great support.
A special needs teacher is hoping to see more special education programs in all secondary schools. This as hundreds of students prepare for the common entrance exam scheduled for May. Class 4 teacher at Erdeston Special Education Unit, Tanisha Bradshaw Simpson, says she has modified her teaching methods to cater to her students' specific needs.
In my class, I do a lot of games, and we do a lot of activities, like hands-on activities, where they can grasp the concepts even faster, because that's their way of learning. As we know, different students have different learning styles.
Ms. Bradshaw Simpson is also worried about what will happen to some of her special students once they reach secondary school.
In terms of the interaction between peers, because you know, there are some students who see that they have disadvantages and try to, pick on them and stuff, like bully them.
An organization that started out trying to help the elderly in Barbados has had to switch its focus. Unique Helping Hands was set up last year for adults who are at least 50 years old. They were expected to be exposed to information technology, craft, motivational discussions, exercise, field trips and other outdoor activities. But Director Penelope Howell told CBC News that was not to be.
Unique Helping Hands is a company that encourages persons to be involved. We used to be called Unique Helping Hands Senior School, but since quite a number of younger persons are coming to us, we have decided to drop Senior School, and now we call ourselves Unique Helping Hands.
Ms. Howell was speaking to CBC News during a health fair organized by Unique Helping Hands. Representatives from several organizations, including gyms and educational associations, along with health officials, were on hand.
We're trying to promote the different health services that can be accessed in Barbados, and encouraging the persons who would come by to find out exactly what they can do to promote good health in the different areas of our bodies that we think that we can indeed work on.